So welcome back, friends. I hope we are able to connect this time. Some technical glitch. Ma'am, I have sent you an invite. Could you please check that? Hopefully this time we are able to connect. Ma'am, can you see the device? Accepted that as well. Yeah, finally. Oh, finally, ma'am. Finally. So they say sabr ka phal meetha hota hai. Hopefully we're gonna get a brilliant, and this is a training for the folks who want to join the military and the bureau, that it's always, patience is a virtue. So yes, ma'am. A very good evening, ma'am. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you here. So before we start a podcast, in the honor of our men who are safeguarding our borders, so there's a small poetry that I would like to dedicate to all the Faujis around there. So it goes like, तुम्हारे नाम के मंदिर नहीं बने हैं कहीं, तुम्हारे नाम के मंदिर नहीं बने हैं कहीं, ना ही मस्जिदों ने कभी सजदा किया है। तुम्हारे नाम के मंदिर नहीं बने हैं कहीं, ना ही मस्जिदों ने कभी सजदा किया है, मगर खुदाओं से बढ़कर जो रुतबा है, मगर खुदाओं से बढ़कर जो रुतबा है, ज़मीन-ए हिंद ने वो मर्तबा तुम्हें दिया है, ज़मीन-ए हिंद ने वो मर्तबा तुम्हें दिया है। Ladies and gentlemen, introducing to you Maj Prajakta Desai. She needs no introduction, but I will still try to do my bit to, bring to you her illustrious achievements, her larger-than-life image. So, ma'am comes from Maharashtra, and her illustrious 11-year-long career in the military is full of adventures, experiences. So without much ado, I will not hold you from having an audience with the ma'am. So it's open to you, ma'am. Please share with us your experiences. We will start with your most amazing experiences that you had in your military career, ma'am.
So honestly, Navjot, my entire 11-12 years in the army has been full of adventure, full of life, and each and every day was a learning. So if I have to, specifically tell for the aspirants over here, when you start as a cadet, you're a completely different mindset. You come as a typical civilian with most of them are civilians, with no idea of what the armed forces have in store for you. You come there, you have your different kind of egos, different kinds of settings in life. You come in the academy, they break you so much, get you to ground zero, so that, you stand equally with everyone. There's no discrimination of caste, creed, culture, money, status, nothing. You come as one, you stand for each other, you learn your camaraderie. When you become a lieutenant, you get into the, unit, you again feel, you've done something really great in life by becoming a class 1 gazetted officer. But at the end of the day, you realize you're just a baby in the unit, a small part of the battalion, wherein you are youngest, maybe even in age, and if not in age, but definitely the youngest in your experience. Slowly and steadily, when you become a captain, major, you're entrusted with all the responsibilities. Initially, you're handling, you may be around 100 men, and then you go around looking for the administration of 250, 300 men. So each and every day is a learning, each and every day is an adventure. I honestly do not recall a single incident, which might have been, all incidences are special, but I might have been so special that it strikes me. But I would say the best part of the Indian Armed Forces is, not only in the Indian Army, the Armed Forces is the camaraderie. I always keep telling students here, or, whenever in my lives or interviews, कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक आपको कोई भी हेल्प चाहिए, या ईस्ट से वेस्ट तक कोई भी हेल्प चाहिए, when you connect with another armed forces officer, we connect by something known as a course names, not by our branches and our arms. We connect by the seniority of our courses, our academies, and everybody just a phone call away from any help that you require, personal or professional help. I think that's the beauty of the armed forces. The entire country is yours, and the entire Indian Armed Forces is your family. And I think that's the best takeaway, or the best thing that can ever happen to any person who's either a serving soldier or a retired one.
Absolutely, ma'am. So adding on to that, I would like to mention a few things that makes ma'am's career stand out. So for the benefit of the audience, she is the first woman to have been a UAV observer pilot. So ma'am, take a bow for that. That's, that's a many of you're breaking that glass ceilings. You breaking. There is a movie Moneyball where it is mentioned that the first person through the wall always get bloodied. So
Yeah.
how did it feel to be the torchbearer of aviation in the army, ma'am?
So I'll also speak about being the pioneers in air traffic controlling.
Yes, ma'am.
Army aviation is as old as me, maybe a year older, like 38, 37, 38 years old, 85, 86 is the raising. So since then till now, ज़्यादा time नहीं हुआ है.
Right.
So when we had to learn things from Air Force, earlier we had no controllers. Air traffic controllers were not there. It was manned by the men.
Okay.
It happened in 2009 when the first SS batch of women officers.
Okay.
From there, we started getting one lady officer per batch who were coming and being a part of Army Aviation. And I was from the 5th batch. So we were the pioneers in
Pioneers.
setting up,
Absolutely.
yes, setting up ATC in Army Aviation. So I will tell you that was more challenging. As you rightly said, the first person who is hitting the wall is bloody, because you are the one who's bringing in changes. कोई चीज अगर बहुत लंबे समय के लिए चलती रहती है ना किसी के भी लाइफ में, किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, तो वो एक तरीका हो जाता है. एंड इवन इफ इट इज राइट और रॉन्ग, we don't want to waver from the from the path.
Yes, yes.
But aviation is such a field जहाँ पे it has to be zero error.
Yes.
एक zero error syndrome होना ही चाहिए, because अगर आपने errors किए तो आपके errors, हम जैसे कॉर्पोरेट में कहते हैं कि पैसों का नुकसान होता है, यहाँ पे आप लोगों की लाइफ से खेलोगे, आप इक्विपमेंट से खेलोगे. इक्विपमेंट छोड़ दो, जो multi-million dollar equipment है, that's something that can be bought, but you cannot get back the lives. You cannot be that brave enough to stand up in front of the widow and tell her that today your husband or your wife has been lost, their lives have been lost because of you. So when you are into such a profession, you have to abide by the rules and regulations. So getting entire thing from the Indian Air Force, transforming that for the requirements of the Indian Army Aviation, and then training people thereby, training the mindset of people first, and second, then training them physically or intellectually to take up the task, was something bit challenging. I remember I was the person who was responsible for getting an entire audit made. जो हम ऑडिट होता है पूरे इंडियन आर्मी एविएशन के लिए, मैंने बैठ के काफी 2-3 महीने लगे थे वो प्रॉपर ऑडिट बनाया बाकी के इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ. कांट मेंशन टू मेनी नेम्स हियर, बट जब हम आई थिंक 2015 में वो ऑडिट हमने बनाया था स्टार्टिंग में, जब तक वो फाइनलाइज हुआ सब कुछ हुआ 2016, एंड टिल डेट इट इज ऑन. सो वी वर द पीपल हु वर struggling to get everything in place to make Army Aviation is one of the best arms. Though we were having only helicopters, but then getting everything to stay on track, to stay, so that we have accident and incident free flying. तो वो सबसे ज़्यादा था. And UAV का जो बात करना चाहूँगी, तो that was a transition that Army was having within, when the assets were moved from one branch or one arm to another. I was, I would say, really lucky enough, more than the efforts, I would say. It's the luck that...
That's your humility to say so.
No, honestly, I feel I have manifested that. I always wanted to be a pilot in life.
Absolutely.
So I think God said, yes, I will make you a pilot. I'll put a tick in your box, but you will become a UAV pilot. Obviously, आप 9 साल की सर्विस के बाद आप थोड़ा लेड बैक हो जाते हो पढ़ाई के मामले में, क्योंकि आपको लगता है आपने बहुत पढ़ लिया है अब तक, सब कुछ सेट है, तो थोड़ा सा लेड बैक एटीट्यूड आ ही जाता है. And then when I had started studying for UAVs, I remember having opening all my books, जो बेसिक भी थे छोटे मोटे, वो सब कुछ लेके वो 4 महीने पूरा खुद को डेडिकेट करके to study something that you've left back. And this technical is something you leave back very early in college or very early in service. Once you've settled, you don't go back to it. And then taking something that is UAVs, a new thing, handling equipments which are, literally the payload that we used to handle was around 8 crores. So being so careful with sophisticated equipment, yeah, those were the challenges. And yes, but you feel nice, at the end of the day, that you've had a successful mission or you've learned things successfully.
So we know Kalpana Chawla as the first woman Indian woman into the space, and now we have Major Prajakta as the first Indian woman UAV observer pilot. So that's quite some achievement, ma'am. Going on with your aviation story, slightly because you have spoken at other platforms as well. Slightly about the Balakot thing, if you whatever you unclassified information that you can share, because we are bound by the Army Act, Official Secrets Act.
Yes.
So I would
Yes.
just want you to share that.
I would just talk about the gist of that because the thing was really very hot that time, February. I'm sorry for the dog's noise. My dogs are
It's
always
okay.
around with me, so they will keep
Sure,
barking.
ma'am, it's symbolic of your love for the animals. We'll talk about that later as well.
Sure. So things were quite hot then. It was post. I think it was in February end of. I would not like to give right dates also here.
Yeah.
Exact date.
Act.
It was February 2019 when before that the Balakot strike and all had taken place. We had got that information that something might happen. We might have some kind of
Right.
infiltration or things coming from the adversary side. We were quite prepared. The bunkers and everything was dug in. Such bunkers that you can stay there for a couple of days at least. Everybody was equipped. We had anti-aircraft guns also laid. And it was around unexpected timing. Generally, you expect strikes or something coming early, at late nights or time where,
Yeah.
at times where people are not awake. But this was something unusual at around, I think 9:30, 10 were the aircrafts which had crossed over. And when we were in Srinagar, I remember I was standing outside my unit office and taking interviews of the people who are going on chutti and all. That's the procedure that follows. And all of a sudden, all of a sudden I heard a very huge blast. And when I looked up in the air, I actually saw an aircraft completely charred and it literally fell down. That time nobody was aware whether it's an airstrike or what is happening.
Right.
Nothing was aware. But we were so prepared that, the siren was sounded. And my CO and 2IC, they went in the gypsy to check what has happened because, our garrison was very small. So we could see where the smoke had come from.
Yeah.
And that time when the siren was sounded, we got to know that it may be a potential airstrike.
Okay.
I remember one thing very well. In my premises, where my office was there, I was the alone officer there. There was nobody and my men were around. I do not know where I got that much of, courage, I would say. Obviously, my legs were really shivering. I thought it might be the last day because you never know a second strike can come over. You never know what can happen because you don't have the right information at that very moment, real-time information.
Difficult to have that.
Yeah. So one of our helicopter was outside. So my first concern was, where is our helicopter? So I was ringing up constantly in my ATC trying to find out. And at the same time, I was, trying to evacuate the men. Because there was nobody around. Obviously, they would go on their own. But as an officer, that is your obligation that your men come before you.
Absolutely.
I remember along with one of the Jawan, who's a runner, who's responsible for, giving messages here and there. He stood by me. I told him, you go and hide in the bunker. He told me one thing, Sab, aapko chhod ke nahi jaunga. I don't know how come, but that is what the camaraderie was I was talking about.
Esprit de corps, as they say it.
Yes. So he and me literally evacuated everybody out from our premises. Those were in the offices, those were doing any work. Everybody was pushed in the bunker. No information was available till then of the helicopter whatsoever. After that, I drove in my car to the tower. ATC में जाके फिर contact हुआ, check किया कि हमारा helicopter कहाँ है, and we got to know that it is safe at one of the location. Just had landed somewhere. So this had happened during the Balakot strike, and that day I felt that, when you are trained so rigorously in the military, you are actually put into situations which are challenging your physical and your mental abilities. It is for a day something like this, because we are training in peace time to bleed in war, so that we can less bleed in war. So to be ready for a situation like this, I think that is why the army puts you under so much of pressurized situation that जब situation आएगी आप उसको handle कर पाओगे. And this is something really I would say I'm proud of. Not proud of being the first woman officer of UAV, but proud of such a thing that in such a situation I though I was also scared. Obviously, everybody's scared for their life. And a
Absolutely,
person who
absolutely.
says that is lying. Everybody
Yes.
gets scared of their life. And in spite of that, I could gather the courage, muster the courage, and push the boys
Absolutely.
out. Whatever happened later, many things cannot disclose here. But the
Yeah, yeah.
situation which was created was so, serious or life-threatening that my first reaction was to get people to safety.
You mentioned that from where did you get that courage, but I would rather say that it is the courage that was inherent there in you, and it really came to the fore, and it was the champion in you, the tiger in you that really, didn't think about your own personal safety and rather the safety of your own men. That is what you really exemplified the Chetwood credo, service before self, the
Yes, yes.
service before self. So you put yourself last. You truly exemplified that spirit, ma'am. So, ma'am, let's now turn the clock back to your younger years. I would like you to tell a little bit about your family, your parents. I mean, how their sacrifices that because we are because of them. So definitely it couldn't be complete without a reference of them. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear that.
Navjot, I come from Mumbai and from Lal Bagh. I'm born in the late 80s. So जो हमारा area है ना लाल बाग का, in the early 80s and 90s was very notorious, and it was very
Okay.
famous for gang wars and all. Very
Okay. Okay.
famous. तो
Okay.
तभी क्या होता था ना वहाँ पे, if students had to take admission in good schools or in good colleges, seeing our address that we belong to Lal Bagh or Parel, we were not given admission in good
Okay.
schools.
Okay.
Trust me. I mean, that was the scenario in late 80s and early 90s. So
Okay.
उस जगह से आना जहाँ पे obviously now things have changed, but
Absolutely.
वहाँ से बड़े होना and to make up your career into a field which is not even thought by many was a big thing for me. I all the credit I'll tell you goes to my parents.
Absolutely.
Never in my entire life my parents have told me do this or do that. I am very much advocate of the fact that किसी भी जिंदगी की चीज में आप आपके पेरेंट्स के डिसीजंस मतलब उनकी सजेशंस लो, उनके डायरेक्शंस लो. मैं आई एम वेरी बिग एडवोकेट ऑफ दिस बिकॉज मुझे लगता है जो उन्होंने जिंदगी में एक्सपीरियंस किया है वो
Absolutely.
नहीं चाहते कि अपने बच्चे के पास आए, एंड दे वांट द बेस्ट फॉर देयर चाइल्ड. So when I was growing up, I was a girl in the 90s जहाँ पे लड़कियों को बाहर नहीं जाना, ज्यादा लड़कों से बात नहीं खेलना. उस environment में भी my father used to make me climb on the दही हंडी. अगर आपने गोपाल काला में
Absolutely.
देखी है,
Absolutely
वहाँ
wonderful.
पे
Wonderful.
मुझे पापा जबरदस्ती ले जाते थे. आई वॉज अ वेरी बिग coward kind of a child. मैं हर चीज में डरती थी, बट माई फादर वुड मेक मी डू दैट अलॉन्ग विथ माई कजन्स कि कुछ नहीं होता, यू कैन क्लाइंब ऑन द दही अंडी एंड वो फोड़नी होते, मटकी फोड़ सकते हो. लड़की लड़के का उसमें ये नहीं है. माई मदर वॉज आई थिंक दे वर नॉट एग्जैक्टली फियरलेस बट दे वर द पीपल हु वर टेकिंग रिस्क. बहुत जल्दी मुझे स्कूल में उन्होंने स्कूल बस नहीं, वी कुडंट अफोर्ड, सो मुझे उन्होंने लिटरली एक दिन दिखा दिया कि ये बस पकड़नी है, यहाँ उतरना है, सामने क्रॉस करके स्कूल है. तो वैसे मुझे मम्मा ने 5th स्टैंडर्ड में भेज देना छोड़ दिया था. फिर ट्रेन से भी ट्रैवल करना ऐसे ही सिखाया. वहाँ पे बड़ी क्लॉक होती है, वहाँ पे टाइम देखना है, और वहाँ पे एक रेक्टेंगल होता है जिसको इंडिकेटर कहते हैं. सी वेयर द ट्रेन इज गोइंग एंड सिट. She never came with me. I don't know how much courage that women had. Maybe she kept a stone on her heart and she trained me like that. कि हर चीज उन्होंने मेरे को बड़ी बचपन पे सिखाई to become independent. And one thing was very clear of my parents, that unless and until you feel you're independent in life or anything, do not go for any things like a marriage or anything like that. So घर में चीजें बड़ी laid down थी. We come from a very simple family. We saw all our financial struggles, a lot of them. But in spite of the financial struggles, there was no restriction के like बच्चा बेटा आप ये मत करो या वो मत करो. In fact, when I told my parents I wanted to join the army, they were super excited. And my father was till date, मतलब अगर कुछ हो जाता है, मेरा promotion होता है या कुछ भी, मैं even मेरे courses में अच्छा करती थी, so my father used to go telling everyone around that Prajakta scored an A grade in this and that. So
Wonderful.
they always been supportive. My parents have been sportsmen themselves. So I think उनमें वो पहले से चीज थी. My mother was an NCC cadet. Both my parents have played at sports at state and national level. So me, my younger siblings also, my brother and sister, obviously they're born in late 90s. But वो चीज नहीं थी. So घर से बहुत support था. And उन्होंने हमेशा कहा कि whatever you do, we are always with you. Two things my father always told me not to do, which I love doing. I love to act and I dance. तो मैं कहती थी पापा को मैं एक्टर बनूंगी या मैं मॉडलिंग जाऊंगी. I used to keep telling that to them, but then that was a very big restriction कि वो चीज नहीं करोगे और बॉक्सिंग नहीं सीखोगे, because he used to box, so he knew कि कोई इंजरी हो जाती है तो injuries are very bad. So just two things I still remember my father said no for. Otherwise, there were nothing that, which my parents have not, stopped me for. In fact, they raised us so independently. हमारे घर में, we are Hindus, but हमारे घर में हर एक भगवान की फोटो है. I have photo of a dargah which I used to go when I was posted in Punjab. Then we have Jesus Christ. We have every god possible in my small house. So we are that people that our religion might be Hindu, but we follow everything. We are that open-minded. कि अगर मेरे पापा एक भगवान के लिए एकदम ज्यादा करते हैं तो I will be inclined towards other, mother will be. So it is that open in my house. And till date it is there.
Ma'am, that grooming is really visible, and the independence that they gave you and the courage that they gave you to follow what you wanted to do, and the sometimes that nagging, that pushing to do things that you were initially uncomfortable to do. That is what I think that grooming we need from the parents. And as you said कि वो बस में चढ़ा देते थे या बोल देते थे. Similar thing happened in our childhood. Both of my parents, they are teachers. So, and many of my friends would ask कि तेरे को तो पढ़ा देते होंगे parents, but they never taught us. They've told us to fend for ourselves. So that is the kind of thing, that is how they train us in a way. So ma'am, after you got into the OTA and after passing out from there, any wonderful any such experience in the training period, where you have to more get over your mental thing more than the physical thing. So if you can share that.
Yeah, there are many actually. So जो 40 किलोमीटर हमारी लास्ट रन होती है ना, I'll tell you, run starts at around I think 9:30 after dinner. आप रेस्ट वेस्ट करोगे, उसके बाद आपकी रन स्टार्ट होगी. एंड द रन बैक इज फ्रॉम द कैंप साइट एरिया बैक टू द एकेडमी.
ओके.
वो रन पूरी 40 किलोमीटर्स की कंपनी वाइज करनी होती है. सो योर रैंकिंग विल डिपेंड अपॉन योर कंपनी क्लोजिंग. अगर आपकी 32 लेडी कैडेट्स है, ऑल द 32 गर्ल्स क्लोज इन, उसके बाद ही आपकी रैंकिंग डिसाइड होगी कि आपने क्लोज इन करना.
राइट.
So yeah, 40 kilometers, and those run backs were literally with 17 kilos of battle load, which includes your weapon and you're in your combat uniform, your shoes. चेन्नई की गर्मी अलग ही है, वहां पे लोग ऐसे ही खड़े खड़े गिर जाते हैं, तो वहां ट्रेनिंग होती थी. And when you start running, I'll tell you, initially आप जोश में दौड़ते, but after 5, 10, 15 kilometers ना body starts giving up. तो वहां हमारा क्या होता था, हमारी स्ट्रैटेजी होती है. जो स्ट्रॉन्ग रनर्स है वो दूसरों को हेल्प करेंगे, दूसरों को पकड़ेंगे, मे बी उनका वेपन लिया, या फिर अगर बैकपैक हो तो आइटम्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किए, एक दूसरे को एक साथ दौड़े. और जो मीडियम, वो वीक रनर्स के साथ, और जो मीडियम रनर्स है जो अपने आप मैनेज कर सकते हैं, तो उनको हम आगे रखते थे, अ पर्सन हु कैन मैनेज ऑन देयर ओन. और जो स्ट्रॉन्ग और वीक है वो अपना पेयर करते थे. तो touch wood, that time I was a person who was running quite strongly.
Okay,
so I remember one of my course mate running with her. She used to have a little tough time carrying her weapon, and जो एक दूसरे के साथ bonding होती है कि भाई दर्द भी हो रहा है मेरे पैर, तो I used to literally गाली मारो for her कि तेरे वजह से मेरे दर्द हो रहा है पैर. But still the fact that she is my course mate, I used to pick up her weapon, hold her hand, and used to run. So I was in Zozilla company, and हमारा work cry kind of था जोशिला जोशिला Zozilla. So with that kind of a war cry we used to keep running. Okay, Zozilla company के लिए दौड़ना है. And I think वही जो एक दूसरे को पकड़ के रहने वाली जो फीलिंग होती है, वो हमने बहुत डेवलप की. मतलब इतने पैर दर्द थे, कोई बैठ जाता है कि भाई मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी, तो आइदर आप उसको गाली मारोगे या प्यार से बात करोगे. You will have fun in that 40 minutes. And I'll tell you, being women also, there are many things that are very peculiar to women.
Yes.
Some women are in their menses. You cannot complain that I'm in my menses. So 40 kilometer has to be ran. मतलब अगर आप नहीं दौड़ती तो आप एक ड्रॉप आउट हो, वैसे भी आपकी कंपनी पहले ही हार गई.
Absolutely.
किसी लड़कियों के पैरों में ब्लिस्टर्स थे, कोई स्प्रेन था, किसी का शिन स्ट्रेस फ्रैक्चर्स थे, शिन पेन, इतना सब लेके भी वी रन ओनली फॉर आवर कंपनी, ओनली टू क्या कहते हैं, टू गेट बैक इन द एकेडमी. और लास्ट 5 जो किलोमीटर्स होते थे, आई हैड आई एम अ बिग फूडी. मुझे बहुत खाने की क्रेविंग्स होती है 24/7। तो हमारे अकेडमी में एक टिप्सी पुडिंग देते हैं, दैट्स वेरी पेक्यूलियर काइंड ऑफ अ पुडिंग which is made in the army and it's still all the army messes. It has layers
Mm-hmm.
of cream and then fruits,
Right,
dry
right.
fruits, cake and it's really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
जब भी मैं परेशान होती थी in the run, I used to remind myself tipsy 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 and I used to go running. बस यही कि मुझे
Quite some motivation.
मुझे
Quite some
जाके
motivation.
एनडीए को लड़कों को ये कोल्ड कॉफी का फैन बहुत होता
Yeah,
है
yeah.
एनडीए में।
I heard.
हाँ,
Yeah, I heard that. Coffee.
so for me it was tipsy pudding and last 5 kilometers was only dedicated to that bloody tipsy pudding कि मैं जाके सबसे बड़ी प्लेट उठाऊं वहां पे और जल्दी जाओ तो 2 भी उठा पाओगे। So only in that thing last के 5 kilometers दौड़ते हो and you know you on YouTube to know it is written by I think SS5 or E7. So far training.
Ma'am, I think that I think your voice broke in between, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Uh,
I think your network is weak because I'm seeing little hazy video.
yeah, I'm unable to hear you, ma'am. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just mentioning about how the 40-kilometer run exactly goes through.
We are the last 5 kilometers. We had reached the last 5 kilometers. Tipsy, that thing, that motivation.
Yeah. So it was just the tipsy pudding that used to motivate me to go for lunch.
Absolutely.
Put everything aside, sleep, and the next day you get liberty, so you can go out and eat whatever you want.
Right. So, ma'am, I would also like you to take your memory back to that most prized moment, that Antim Pug. Let's recount that, because that remains with a Fauji for the entire life. So, what was your Antim Pug moment?
My Antim Pug was a mixture of a lot of things. I had lost my camera a day prior.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of things had happened. But you know, जब आपका अंतिम, I'll tell you, आपको पहले तो नींद नहीं आती पूरी रात नहीं आती, because you're so excited for the next day. I think आपको 4:30 वगैरह ड्रेस अप होके परेड ग्राउंड के पीछे जाके खड़े रहना होता है। योर अंडर स्टडी जो होती है आपकी, मतलब आपकी जूनियर होती है, वो आपके स्टार्स को ब्रासो करेगी आपके लिए। सो आई रिमेम्बर सिटिंग विथ हर ऑन माई, वी हैव बेड्स ना, बेड पे उसके साथ बैठी थी, टॉकिंग टू हर, गिविंग हर ऑल द एडवाइसेस फॉर हर अपकमिंग next one term, getting my brasso done। और बीच बीच में मेरे को झपकी भी आती थी। I was very famous for sleeping. I used to sleep standing, sleeping, और anything you make me do, I sleep in that. Like अगर मैं आपको punishment भी दे रहे, मैं उसमें भी मुझे नींद आ जाएगी। तो मुझे नींद भी आ रही थी, but I still remember that scene। हमारे entire barrack में lights थी, everybody was so excited, uniforms were made। I remember के I think 4:30 वगैरह हमारा reporting था। Post the reporting, our JCO Saab, Moti Saab, I still remember him very fondly. He had spoken to us because once they become JC, once we become officers, we'll be senior to them. So, ideally they would have to salute us. So that is one of the reasons our drill was immediately. Just because imagine a day prior you were their cadet, you become an officer, you are eligible for the salute. So जो भी आपके bondings है, जो भी photographs है, उनसे प्यार से बात करनी है, जो भी memories आपको जीनी है दोबारा, you do it all before your POP. Yes, I remember when the the song is played. I am not able to pronounce it. It's a very English word. That song is played when the POP is when people pass out after the parade is done, when you pass out through the अंतिम पग, एंड जब आप अंतिम पग पास आउट करते हैं, आई थिंक मैं सेकंड या थर्ड थी, बिकॉज आई एम वन ऑफ द शॉर्टेस्ट, एंड व्हेन यू मूव आउट यू स्टार्ट you get goosebumps on your body when you start doing the yes, when you cross Antim Pug, you all have tears in your eyes because you have passed out from the
absolutely
time is when
that's the golden moment, that's the moment to
You can hear me? I think some network glitch.
हाँ, बीच में मैम कट रहा है थोड़ा सा, बीच में आपका थोड़ा सा शायद नेटवर्क, बच्चों ने नीचे लिखा था कुछ, आपकी वॉइस ब्रेक हो रही है थोड़ी सी।
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hope it won't repeat the same. Just 1 second, guys. We're trying to add, ma'am. I think some error at.
Can you see me now?
Ma'am, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, I can see myself. I don't know what happened all of a sudden.
Yeah, something. Instagram is playing things today.
Yes, today, unfortunately. Shall I go out and join again?
Yeah. That would help, ma'am. That would help.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you confirm whether? Ma'am, I can't see you. Both are visible. I don't know what's wrong with the Instagram today. Send a request. Okay. It's really quite some hassle today.
Yes.
Anyways.
Yeah, you can.
So, ma'am, we're talking.
Right.
Sorry, ma'am.
Can you see me?
Yeah. Now
Hear me?
I can see and hear both. I can see.
Okay.
So we will conclude in 5 minutes because you never know it will again have. So we
No
will
problem.
talk. We were talking about your your participation in this Mrs. India INC season 4 as well as Queen of the World India season 3. So yeah, can you briefly tell us about your passion for acting and this being in the public sphere?
So as I said now, from childhood that was there in my head that I want to act and dance and all. And that time I even had a big fad in my head that I want to go in for this Miss India and everything. So there again, you're required to be super tall for that, super beautiful. So all those things I do not fall that under. So obviously then I got to know there's another platform which allows married women to come and they don't have embargo of your height and all.
Right.
So then I thought, why not just try it out? So I had tried my hand at pageant.
Right.
And it was a good experience. I would not say all that good experience, but yes, I think every industry has their pros and cons, and I saw both of them in that. And I'm just happy that I participated. I had an experience of the ramp walk, the stage, and everything.
Right. Wonderful, ma'am. And apart from that, your skydiving and your adventure sports. So you have been wearing so many hats. So how do you manage all this with being a Fauji wife as well? Managing that, being a Fauji wife itself is a full-time, it's a full-time occupation.
Honestly, for me, being a Fauji wife hasn't been a full-time occupation because we were both posted at our different locations.
Right.
We were never together. But yes, I feel there are a lot of challenges that come when you are married to a army officer. I would say both ways. Your spouse, either she is serving or he is serving. तो अगर आपका स्पाउस फौज में है तो डिफिकल्टी तो आती ही है और डिफिकल्टी बहुत होती है. Distances are really, rather than distances, the time duration that you stay apart is really long. I remember getting married in 2014 and living with him after 6 to 7 years of our marriage. Before that, it was just thrice in a year that we would meet each other. But I think that was something we accepted very early. हमने पहले ही decide किया था कि भाई दोनों को फौज में जाना है, दोनों के अपने अपने aspirations है. And understanding each other was easy. I feel, why? So when you are a person already in uniform, you understand what are the difficulties the other person might be going. Because अगर आप same profession में होते हो तो आपको पता है कौन सी difficulty है, postings कैसे होगी, लोगों को क्या expectation है, आप कितने risk involve है आपके life में, ये सब चीजें आपको easily पता होती है. But if you're not in uniform, ये मेरा personal opinion है, एक अलग kind of maturity लगती है आपके spouse को जानने में कि आपका spouse फौज में है, he or she will be having a tough schedule, will be having postings where you're not allowed to stay. So I think वहाँ पे थोड़ी maturity ज़्यादा लगती है कि ऐसी होने वाली है जिंदगी, तो just accept it. अगर हमने accept कर लिया, we fell in love and married a person who is serving the nation, then I think all these things, are complementary with it, and you should take it every time as it comes. And about adventure activity, obviously मुझे हर चीज करना पसंद है. मुझे नहीं लगता कि इंसान को स्टैग्नेंट होना है, और जब भी मैं 1-2 मंथ के लिए स्टैग्नेंट हो जाती हूँ किसी भी चीज में, आई स्टार्ट फ्रीकिंग आउट. मुझे लगता है जो भी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले आप सीख लो, व्हाई नॉट. इट्स ऑलवेज अ लर्निंग फेज, लर्निंग नेवर गोज वेस्ट. तो मैंने सब कुछ लिटरली मेरे खुद के पैसों पे और खुद के टाइम मैनेज करके मैंने हर एक चीज सीखी है. couple of things I was able to pull off while in the army, and rest of the things were all when I was on chutti, because I had to learn. I always felt you should learn a lot of things, and that's how I went through that as well. So it's an understanding part that these things come.
Absolutely. And absolutely thrilling to listen to these amazing stories from not just one aspect. Being a military veteran is just one aspect of your personality, and you are wearing so many hats, and how I can that with so much grace and so much charisma involved there. Ma'am, before we conclude our live, I mean, a message for the aspirants who are listening to you, and how do they need to make themselves worthy of being the a proud citizen of India in the coming 25 years in the Amrit Kal? What kind of people do we need in the army as well as in the country, in the society, ma'am?
So these two things, you've asked me 2 questions, so I'll answer them separately. First would be for all the aspirants over here, I would like to tell them, and especially with today's live, what we discussed was more about your resilience and more about your mental ability. अगर आपको फौज में जाना है, आपको प्रिपेयर होना पड़ेगा that you will come across any situation. अगर आप मेंटली और फिजिकली, तो इंसान ऐसे ही स्ट्रांग हो जाता है, किसी को 10 दिन दौड़ा दो, वो 11वें दिन अच्छे से दौड़ेगा. But when it comes to your mental well-being, mental agility, and your mental strength, it all comes when you are actually, put under so much of pressure, put in an environment जहाँ पे आपको escape नहीं होता, but आपको escape is only through it. उस टाइम पे सिर्फ आपकी mental ability काम आती है कि आप कितना pressure handle कर पाओ, आप कितने strong हो, और आप कितना जल्दी give up नहीं करें. तो these are the aspects one has to develop. जब बच्चे मुझे पूछते हैं कि what is required to get into the armed forces, I would always tell them exam है, सब कुछ है, वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा. उसके अलावा आपकी पर्सनालिटी डेवलपमेंट, आप इंसान कैसे हो, कि प्रेशर में भी आप खुद का ना सोच के दूसरों के बारे में सोचो. बिकॉज व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट इंडियन आर्मी, उनका मेन एम है कि उनको अपने एक ऑफिसर को अपने 120 बंदों के साथ जाके, एक ऑफिसर को 120 के साथ जाके अपने एरिया में जाके वॉर लड़नी है. तो सोचो उसकी लीडरशिप किस लेवल की होनी चाहिए, उसकी डिसीजन मेकिंग एबिलिटी, उसकी लोगों को एक साथ रखने की एबिलिटी. तो ये चीजें तभी आएगी जब आप एक पर्सनालिटी को आपके एनहांस करोगे, डेवलप करोगे. और वो सिर्फ अच्छे सिचुएशंस में नहीं आती, आपको हर टाइम डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन के थ्रू ही जाना पड़ता है. सो बी रेडी इफ यू वांट टू गेट इनटू द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस. दिस इज व्हाट विल कम योर वे, एंड दिस इज हाउ you would have to tread your way through it. And second thing, generally I would tell for all people around here, be citizens who are worth fighting for. कोई भी कंट्री परफेक्ट नहीं होती, और जैसे हमारा घर परफेक्ट नहीं है, हम सबके लाइफ में अप्स एंड डाउन्स रहते हैं, फैमिलीज में रहते हैं. सिमिलरली व्हेन यू से आई एम फ्रॉम इंडिया, आई एम एन इंडियन, you are part of a family, you part of a country, so your country will be developing, your country will have pros and cons and ups and downs, but still be proud of being an Indian. I've seen so many pages, I've seen so many comments of people demeaning the country, which I'm really not in favor of. You might criticize people, you might criticize the parties and the government, but when it talks about patriotism, standing by your countrymen, you should always be patriotic and stand by your people.
Absolutely.
And why I say you have to be citizens worth fighting for, because imagine those, for the armed forces I especially talk, the jawan who is at the border is not getting that highly paid as in a corporate. He's getting bare minimum. He's living
Right.
away from his family. He doesn't know whether his son or daughter has gone to school today or not, क्या चल रहा है, but still without any झिझक वो बंदा वहाँ पे borders पे आपको guard कर रहा है, only because the love of his motherland and the oath that he is taking कि मैं मेरा ये काम करूंगा.
Right.
तो अगर ऐसे लोगों को, अगर आपको जब लोग कहते हैं कि we are proud of our army, we are proud, show the pride in being citizens worth fighting for. Be good citizens. Yeah, be good citizens. I'm not saying be good citizen in terms of going yes with a party or no with a party. Be good with each other, help one another, don't litter the place. Try to see what good things can come up for yourself as well as the entire society. अगर एक इंसान ने भी कुछ चीज सोची ना कि मैं खुद के लिए कितना अच्छा करूं और मेरे से कितने 10-15 लोग इंस्पायर हो रहे हैं, 10-15 लोग चीजें अच्छी कर रहे हैं, slowly and steadily the number will multiply like anything, and
yes, domino effect.
Yeah, domino effect, and in the end I think slowly and steadily our country is going to be really great. I mean, economically हम इतने top 5 में हैं, अब थोड़े देरों में हम first second भी हो जाएंगे. So it's all us together, and
with leaders,
you are real heroes. I
with
want to
leaders
help
like you around, we definitely going to do that.
Not at all, not us. We are like retired now, but know who are the real heroes. Know whom you are taking your inspiration from. Actually, the younger generation. पता होना चाहिए inspiration किससे लेनी है. Real life heroes को आप inspiration बनाओ. Forget about the armed forces. Even people who are living their normal life but have done some heroic acts for others, for the society, they are the real heroes. Take them as your inspiration and go ahead.
Absolutely, ma'am. I mean, you beautifully put up the emotion and the ingredient that is needed to be a good citizen, worthy of being a citizen of this proud country. I will summarize it in a couplet because my poetry is something that I'm really fond of. जो बहा नहीं है भावों से, बहती जिसमें रसधार नहीं. जो बहा नहीं है भावों से, बहती जिसमें रसधार नहीं. वह हृदय नहीं, वह पत्थर है जिसमें स्वदेश का प्यार नहीं. तो मैडम ने जैसे मैसेज दिया मैम ने कि वो हृदय में अपने दिल में देश के लिए वो प्रेम लेके चलिए, देश प्रेम की भावना से आगे बढ़िए और पेट्रियोटिज्म जिंगोइज्म में ना कन्वर्ट हो. एक मतलब आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी समझें आप कि देश के लिए आपको क्या करना है और सही डायरेक्शन में चलिए. मैम ने जैसे कहा सही रोल मॉडल्स को चूज करें. जो आजकल हम देख रहे हैं कि थोड़ा यूथ में डिक्लाइन हो रहा है मोरालिटी का, तो उस चीज को भी आप करेक्ट करें. एंड फॉलो लीडर्स लाइक मैम who have served the country, who never even thought about personal safety and even risking the life during those critical moments during the Balakot strike, जहां पे इन्होंने अपने जवान्स को अपने से पहले रखा. And apart from that, she's a Fauji wife. She's a skydiver. She's a hot air balloon expert. She's a multiple time TED Talk speaker. So I can really go on and on, explaining. Even I'm in awe of having this gala time here over the last half an hour or so. Apart from the internet interruptions, it was really, really, really wonderful. Ma'am, it was an honor. It was an honor to have you on this podcast. And I mean, we would love to connect again. I mean, this has been a really wonderful time. Wonderful, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And any concluding message you want to say? Anything?
I've already said so much, but just in the end, be citizens who are worth fighting for. Kind of law-abiding citizens. Worth fighting for. Your men will lay down their lives more happily.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed a treat, and it's been an honor. It's been an honor to have you on your show. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, ma'am.